Hi everyone, it's Alex here again with another one of my podcasts. Thank you for tuning in, and I am delighted to say that I have the lovely and wonderful Sam all the way from Washington DC on today. Hello, Sam.
Good morning. How's it going?
Very good in the crazy times of the world we are in at the moment. I hope your friends, family, etc. are all safe and well.
We're adjusting to life at home and the new normal, that's for sure. But we're all hanging in so far.
That's good. What is the new normal? Maybe we can touch on what is the new normal. Cool. So who, what, why, when, where? Let's hear a little bit of Sam's story before we get stuck into the meat and two veg on this.
Sure. So I have been a sales executive for the last 13 years, I guess now, which somehow makes me feel old, but have been everything from an individual contributor to a executive leader of global teams at some really recognizable brands within SaaS technology in San Francisco. And now I run my own sales consultancy, which is called #SamSales Consulting. And you might wonder, why #SamSales? Well, #SamSales is a hashtag that I started about 4 years ago. And I just started to post really tangible sales tips on LinkedIn and thought, you know what, this is impactful for me. Maybe it can be impactful for others. And it's taken off since then. So if you're looking for a little sales guidance and some tips to start out your day, I encourage you to search #SamSales and see what will benefit you.
Awesome. And I follow #SamSales, and I've known you for a while now, and I can say that you do come out with some very sensible and helpful and useful tips. So
Thanks.
The journey of your sales journey, let's dig into that just a little bit more, just to give some color and context to your experience. Well, you know, what has that actually entailed? What have you actually sold, to whom, what kind of industries, what kind of level, deal size, all that kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, so I think, I got into sales just like everybody else. I think I did not dream of being in sales when I was a little girl. I fell into it through somebody convincing me, and it started as an account manager running enterprise accounts, large law firms, things like General Electric, Salesforces of the world, and then was convinced to become an actual individual contributor doing actual acquisition, enterprise acquisition, which terrified me, much like it terrifies a lot of other people. Going from account management to that, you're in a position where there's nowhere to hide anymore. You actually have to go and find business. And so after a couple of years of just applying, everything that was innate to me, I am European like you, Alex, so very extroverted, got lots of great manners that I can apply to my sales game. I started to just be really successful. Bringing in some of our largest deals, breaking a bunch of records, closing most amount of logos in a month or in a quarter for our company, highest quota crusher of the year, et cetera. And that just kept on going. And I think that the journey changed for me when I realized that every time I shared some of my advice with colleagues, they would take it, implement it, and then see their own success. And it really made me think, I want to be a leader. I want to be able to scale what I do really effectively and be able to teach others how to do that, right, for the betterment of the sales organization. And so that's exactly what I did. I learned how to do my sales job in my sleep and be able to hit quota. I started to extend myself above and beyond that to create other global programs like onboarding and mentorship and things like that. And then ultimately wormed my way into leadership, leading the global legal market space for a company called On24, which does fabulous webinars. And then ultimately heading over to LinkedIn, where I led an enterprise team there as well.
Awesome. And I, like you have been on a similar journey when it's been out net new, fell into sales, and really as well, a realtor in your speak, an estate agent here in the UK, and then fell into recruitment before moving into a professional service led sales. And what was it that you were doing okay, let's rephrase the question. What were you doing differently that others weren't, which enabled you to, maintain hitting number and so on? Because it's all very well sitting there going, hey, I hit quota and I did this and I did that. I spent 5 years recruiting sales reps into sales jobs, and you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So I'd always then dig down and say, okay, everyone hits quota. So what do you, and I know you, so I know that you're not bullshitting. But what were you what were you doing differently that others weren't, do you think?
Can I say something kind of cheeky and just tell you I used my brain.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that and let's even think about it for this climate right now, right,
Yeah.
that we're in. The amount of sales emails that you're getting where people are trying to capitalize on this opportunity of coronavirus and work from home and things like that, and be aggressive about it, being tone deaf. Those are the people who are not using their brains. So
Mhm.
I thought about just things that other people didn't think about. For example, one of the rules that I have is when you write an outbound message, your subject line and your first sentence are the absolutely most important things when you do outbound email. So
Mhm.
Alex, if I send you an email and we don't know each other, and I'm trying to get you to book a meeting with me, if I have your first name in a subject line, and then if I say, "Hi, Alex, hope you're doing well today. I wanted to talk to you about," you're going to instantly delete that, right? Because you know
Yep.
what it is. It's a sales email. So
Mhm.
instead, I'm going to find some elements of quote unquote, show me you know me. I'm going to do my research and my homework on you. I'm going to find a challenge that you probably have that's relevant to you and that my other customers have. And I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you in a sort of tangible way in my email how to solve it. And what I'm going to get you to think is, this sounds interesting in theory, but I need to hear more. So what you're then going to do is reply and say, I'll take a meeting with you. When that happens, I can't tell you the amount of reps who, one, get excited the meeting is booked, but then two, they don't ever reply to the email. The only thing that they do is they send a meeting invite. That is so rude and so greedy. So in my process, I would always respond and say, thank you so much. I'm so excited to meet with you. You'll see an invite coming from me shortly, etc. And these are tiny little things that I would think about the entire way, along with the customer experience, to one, build my brand as I'm someone that you can count on, that has great character, that you actually want to do business with. But then two, to think about how to use all of that to advance the sale, to make it bigger, to speed it up, etc. There's so many little things that people don't pay attention to that can make such a difference.
Show me you know me. I like
Uh,
that. So
I
let's.
would.
The thing is, it's. I agree with you. It's the problem with common sense is sometimes it's not very common.
Right.
So drilling down a little bit further into that, because reps will say, well, I do, I do the research, and they may pick out some bland thing they found on the LinkedIn profile, or they'll try and be clever with something that they think is appropriate to make reference to, but it isn't. So just to give a little help to our listeners, can you give an example of the sort of thing that you might use to open an email with, and what is that process you do to find that information out?
Absolutely. So I, of course, turned to my trusty sidekick, LinkedIn. You guys may
Mhm.
have heard of it,
Yeah.
but I will look there. LinkedIn Navigator. You and Alex and I, you and I could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But one of the things, in fact, I was just coaching a rep on this today. So a rep was looking at a gentleman's profile by the name of Simon, and the rep said, the only thing I could find is that we both studied economics. So I'm pretty excited about that, and that's what I'm going to reference in the email. Okay, great, like decent start. So I go and look at Simon's profile. Simon co-founded a company that does all charitable work. So first and foremost, if you do any charitable work, if you volunteer, if you donate to causes, like, there's a great way to
Mhm.
connect, even if it's not the same charity. Just say, I love to see that there's somebody that believes in philanthropy as passionately as I do. The next thing that was interesting is that in Simon's profile, he lists all of the names of his board members that sit on the foundation that he started.
Yeah.
And so this isn't something that any ordinary person would know, but there's something that's going to click for all of you out there based on the large companies that are there. So one of the board members works for a company called Ripple, and Ripple is a financial company here in the United States.
Mhm.
And 2 years ago, they had a claim to fame because they essentially shut down a website called donorschoose.org, which is a website that funds teachers' projects. They shut down the site because they fulfilled every project that was being requested
Mhm.
money for. They spent $29 million to fund all of those projects. So number one, Ripple's a genius because they got incredible marketing out of it. Number
Yeah.
two, they did something really philanthropic and wonderful. And number three, it was a write-off. Hello. So just even finding something like that to say, I love that you have someone from Ripple on your board. I love that you have someone from XYZ company on your board. I
Yeah.
love that they did this. Find it in the news, do some research,
Mhm.
spend some time,
Yeah.
right? The other thing I would say is that when you reference something, don't just reference it, give an opinion about it.
Okay.
So Alex, you're probably the same way with your podcast, where you have people that reach out and say, hey, Alex, I heard your podcast this weekend. Would you be interested in talking to us about our video solutions? And you're like, no, what about my podcast? What did you like about it? Which one did you
Yeah.
listen to? Right? Give me something.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to reference something in that subject line, just talk about it in the email. I loved your podcast. I listened to this one. This tip that you gave was amazing. If it's worthwhile your time to even reach out to this person, then it's worthwhile your time to do your homework beforehand.
Absolutely. It's the old authenticity bit. Don't try and pick up on a hook and then not have done your backup research with them and then start to challenge you on it. And you can't actually then go, I haven't actually listened to your podcast, but I saw you did one, so I thought I'd make reference to it. And
yeah.
does that work just an email, or can you use that for the dare I say it, the old cold call, or can that work on social social outreach in terms of social out as in outreach on social media?
So I'll go back to the manners thing for a minute. So I think one of the things that kind of gives me a different point of view is that I actually went to Swiss finishing school. So I'm originally from Switzerland, although I have no accent because I learned English when I was a peanut. But I think that for me, the cold call, and I know there's 100 opinions out there, but the cold call, it's just rude, right? I'm in the middle of my day. So send me something meaningful by email. Give me a hook to read, and I will choose when I decide to respond to it, right? If it's interesting enough, you're probably going to get a response. I think the social media angle is different, right? So we've all been there where somebody connects with us and we're like, okay, sure, I'll connect with you. And then it's like, oh, here's a sales pitch. And we're like, no. And we made, right? Yeah. The worst. So I think rule of thumb for me in terms of using social is meant to be a research tool for you first and foremost. The second piece of it is you're allowed to connect with someone after you've had some kind of conversation, a discovery call, you met at a conference, you met at a networking event, whatever. If you have said something to them and they have responded with words to you that were positive, not don't ever call me again, then it's appropriate to connect. And then the thing that you're supposed to do, again, if this is a really quality person for you and quality prospective buyer, is do them favors, engage with their content. If they don't have any content, tag them in content that you think would be really great, or do the biggest win of all is find somebody in their same field that you can introduce them to. Networking and making friends is really challenging these days. So if you have a friend that would be a good friend for them, make an introduction, right? It's one of the biggest ways I add value is I think, okay, you're a CMO, who else can I introduce you to in your area, your sector, your age and career, whatever, that would be a good match for you. And then let me be of value by being a connector.
I like that. It's almost the reverse referral, if you will.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. And especially if I'm connecting a current prospect or current client with a potential prospect, then it really is a selfish win. Because they'll still talk about me in the end, right?
Absolutely. And then at the end of the day, we can't escape from what we're trying to achieve. Now, there may be some people sitting here going, "Oh, that feels like a lot of upfront work. I'd far rather just have the templated email and just bash it out and hope for the best."
Yeah,
you're
the
kind
worst.
of I knew you would say that, so I'm going to now put words in your mouth, but my sense hearing you say this is that yes, that little bit extra effort may take longer, but you're going to do less outreach but get a better response rate.
You got it. It is all about quality over quantity here. And I think that the amazing thing is, this is part of the business that I run as part-time BDRs that are contracted out. So this is something that I know not only through my own sales career, but now through something that I actually run as part of my company. And the responses that we get are off the charts. These are from CMOs at some of the largest organizations, some of the largest law firms. We got a general manager at General Electric to respond the other day, and the responses are all the same. The emails that I get every single day are so bad. The only reason I'm responding is because you took time to do your homework, and this actually is a challenge that I have. I will give you 15 minutes, or I can't meet with you, but here's my director of marketing technology, whatever it is. And so I guess I would ask yourself from a sales perspective, what's the cost to you per lead to get a CMO to respond after 1 or 2 touches, right? What would you actually pay for that? Yeah. Some people are going to put on an event, pay $700, $800, $5,000 as a cost per lead for all the work that goes into that, when it doesn't have to be that difficult and it doesn't have to be as damaging to your brand.
Indeed. I get this. That leads me to an interesting kind of point, because this is doing is starting the conversation, right? I'm going to give you 15 minutes of my time on the phone, face to face, or well, we'll come to that in a minute. Um, but then you then have to rely on the skills of the rep to kind of maintain that that customer experience they've already created, right, from that initial
Yeah.
kind of outreach, and goes, okay, this individual seems like they give a shit and is half sensible. I'm prepared to give them some of my time. But if they then fall over at that next touch point, then it's been all for nothing.
I, can you just say that last piece again? You cut out just a little bit.
So
Sorry.
in terms of when you've done that initial outreach, and then so they've opened the email, they've responded and said, yeah, okay, I'm going to give this person some time of day, either with
Yeah.
myself or what have you. But then the rep has to be able to back up that initial kind of impression that they've made
Yeah.
in person. Otherwise, it's all for nothing.
Totally. You're exactly right. And I think a couple of things on that front too. So the amount of times that we book that meeting, right, and then we botch the first conversation, to your point, right, is inordinate. Running a discovery call properly is not that difficult, but so many people miss the mark, right? So let's talk about just even backing up this great thoughtful email that you now sent, and how do you communicate that same thing on the phone? The tip that I give every single rep I've ever coached is your job on a discovery call is to solve the challenge of your prospect, either directly by what you do or by someone that you can refer to them. I just got off a call with somebody that wanted to hire us for our BDR services, but he was looking for something very different than what we did. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a referral for him. And I honestly, it's the first time I feel like I've really failed a discovery call in a long time. But think about that. If you're solving their challenges, the only way you can do that is by asking a lot of questions. And
Yeah.
the only way you can really do this effectively is by starting your discovery call with a broad question. This isn't about you. This call isn't meant to satisfy you. This call is about the prospect, what their challenges are, and getting all of that out of their brains. So I call that, let's crack their head open and let's get everything out that's in there. And the way my immediate go-to is, I could tell you a million things about SAM sales, but I would love to hear from your perspective first. Tell me about your team, challenges you have, give me a sense of the landscape over on your side at, I don't know, Jones Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then I pause. And then what they do is they probably don't answer any of the questions that I just asked, right? And I don't really care if they do. All I want them to do is start talking.
Yeah.
And I think what's great, one more tip on that, and then I promise I'll be quiet, is that everything that then comes out of their mouths, that's essentially your outline for your discovery call, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're short staffed right now. Great. Point number one, short staffed. And one of the challenges we have is demand generation with this. Great. Number two, demand generation. Boom, boom, boom. And then you go back and you dig into those points, and you've got a really solid introductory picture of what life looks like over there and what their true challenges are.
So how do you then move that conversation from taking all this information to an action point in terms of a next step?
Yeah. So I think the thing is that you want to start to paint a picture for them of how you can solve their challenges, and also weaving in customer stories of
Mm-hmm.
what your existing customers are doing with you that's solving their challenges. So actually, one of the companies that I advise for is a company called Replays, with a Z at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got this whole model, 100-point process of how they go through discovery calls, demos, et cetera. And one of their key points is all about customer stories. So you've got to also paint the picture for your prospects that you're already doing this for your clients, that those clients had the same challenges, they were in the exact same boat that they are in now, and that now your clients are no longer in that boat, and you can take that prospect on that same journey. And so what I think is important, and one of the tricks, and I'll give all my prospective clients my tricks here, so now they know what's being done to them. But one of the tricks that I like to do is, when I go back to the start of the bullet points that I wrote down, right, that outline, I'll say one thing. I'll start, okay, you said you were short staffed, so let's talk about that. Tell me more about that. Do you not have budget for headcount? Do you have issues finding headcount? Tell me more about that. Then they'll tell their story, and I'll say, yeah, for sure, our clients were in the same boat. They retain, I don't know, our recruiting services, whatever I'm doing. They retain our recruiting services, and then here's the outcome of what happened. My trick with that is that before they even have a chance to ask another question, right, I move on to the next point. And while that might seem weird, like, why don't we go down that rabbit hole? I like to just get them heightened for every single positive point that I can make for them. I like them to just perk up and say, that would be great. And then we move on to the next point. And they say again, that would be great.
Yep.
And if I can do that 4 or 5 times, right? And then at the end of the call, I can be like, here's what I suggest. Why don't we get your broader team together? Why don't we get anybody else that has the same challenges on your team? I can go through a demonstration of what we do. We can talk through some of our, whatever it is I'm going to do. And then let's schedule a next call so you can get some visuals around what we do. What happens is that they're so excited, right, from that discovery call. And then because you're making it seem so much like a team effort, why don't we get your broader team together? Then they're motivated. They don't feel like you're just trying to get more people on the call, right? They're like, yes, okay, I have more people I can invite. It's not like, were you the only decision maker in this process, right? Because they're going to say yes, and then you're stuck. And that'll lead me to my last kind of Sam salesism there. So for every discovery call I have, I try to double the quality or double the quantity of the people that I have on the next call. Okay. So what that means to me, right, is that if I'm talking to a, marketing director of marketing, right, on one of my calls, the next thing I want to do is either get his or her peer on the call, right? So I double the quantity, or I want to get the CMO on the call. VP of sales, same thing. Director of sales, same thing. I want more people or higher titles, one way or the other. And and then you're scaling your time instead of just demoing to one person over and over again.
Yep, makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
I could talk about this forever, Alex.
No, that's why we can do we can do it again when we know what the world looks like in 6 months' time. And I think kind of moving on to that, because we cannot ignore what is happening today with coronavirus around the world, and the terrible human cost that it is inflicting globally, but the world turns and business has to survive to keep the economy going, and those organizations and those people that are in a position, who are in a fortunate position, I should say, that are going to be able to hold on to their jobs and can work from home, that this is completely and utterly turned sales on its head. And it's interesting because across all sectors, we've been talking about digital transformation for the last 5 years or so. Well, here and now, it's being forced upon us in massively unfortunate circumstances. But what are you? And I appreciate that we're only days, weeks into this. But what sense are you getting from your side of the pond in terms of how SDRs, how sales teams, how sales leaders are coping with this?
Yeah, I think everybody is kind of in a state of panic, right? And I think that's probably global. I think we're all treating this in the same way that we treat most tragedies that happen in our life, right? Or most urgent situations that happen in our life. We panic, we act irrationally for some time, we go through those emotions, right? Then we stop and we think, and we're like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm coming to terms with it. What can I do to adjust and pivot and handle things as they are now? And then we eventually come out on the other side, right? I think we're in that transition period right now in the US anyway, from panic to, okay, just like you said, the world turns, the life must go on. I think the way that sales teams are handling this, and what I see with a lot of leaders, is that they're just panicked about what should they do. Should they keep doing prospecting? Should they keep selling? Should they keep doing cold outreach? Is it too insensitive to do it right now? And my gosh, put me on record for just saying, absolutely not. Don't stop selling. Keep doing your outreach. Keep doing this, but change the empathy and the vernacular that you use. To the earlier point, don't capitalize on this as an opportunity for you to just be aggressive and tone deaf, right? Say, we understand that this is a challenging time. We also understand that you're probably, like many corporations, busier than ever. How can we help? These are 2 ways we're helping our clients. We would love to be of help to you. If there's anything that we can do, let us know. I think if you look at it from that perspective, you will be, 1, different than what everybody else is sending. And 2, we'll probably get a response to saying, thanks. Like, we don't have any need for this right now, but thanks for just being a normal human being, right? And coming at it from that perspective. I think the other thing is, like, think about our markets, right? Like, we have had 12 bear markets, right? Before
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have come through. This is now where we're right. We've always come back. And yes, this is a different catastrophic experience, right? We've gone through 9/11, we've gone through 2008, we've gone through all this stuff in the past. We will bounce back. So I think we just need to be a little bit more compassionate, empathetic, human in this. But I think we need to keep following through with our processes, because weeks will pass and businesses will go back. And, Alex, you and I were talking earlier, the people that were helpful, right, are the ones that are going to come back to you. You made such a great point about that. And those are the ones that are going to have the pipeline built and the relationships built, and that will be able to convert that business.
Yeah, it's interesting times over here. I had my meltdown beginning of last week in London when it kind of dawn of realization. I wrote a blog post on it because I thought I might as well share my share my feelings about it, and I actually felt a lot better
Love that.
actually in terms of writing about it. And yeah, it's kind of I said there were two posts that I can't for the life of me, I can't remember the author. I'll dig it out and I'll put it in the links. But he, to the point about being human, he said, "Is that how far gone sales is? Is that we're having to humanize sales again, when actually the bare bones of selling is relationships. Even if your outreach is net new, you are still building a relationship with someone." It was quite an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
And then there's this other piece I saw today, and again I'll put the link in the post. Ben Smith from Reach Desk and Jack Nico, forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Jack from Salesloft. They hosted a Zoom call with 86 BDRs in London to find ways to kind of adapt in this time. And more, in summary, they talk about exactly what you're saying, empathetic messaging. Unless you've got a product that increases productivity or working remotely, you're probably going to have to play the long game. Think about different things to do, authenticity, personalization, funny things in your background, your Zoom meeting, anything that can start a different type of conversation. Even if it comes to nothing, you've at least had a conversation, and you could have, just by having a conversation with that person, could have just made them feel better about their life, even if there's nothing off the back of it
Totally.
that has come. I think that it's too early to say what's going to happen and how this is going to play out. But to your point, Sam, in 5 years' time, we'll look back on this, hopefully learn from it across all contexts, not internally the response to it globally, the virus itself, but also how we operate as organizations.
Yeah, totally. And I think that you make such a great point, right? Even from that Zoom call, talking about having something funny in your background or something like that, right? On a Zoom call with a prospect, because it allows you to do what we all try to do at the beginning of a call, which is form rapport, right? Yeah. I think this environment will also build a lot more empathy in corporate workers, for those of us who work from home. I worked from home for eons, and sometimes I'll have a prospect who says, was that your dog barking? And I'm like, yes, I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh, and they're really turned off by it. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Right? Yeah, that's children, it's husbands, wives, it's partners, it's
it's everyone screaming. I think, to the earlier point about when you reach out and you do the show me, you know me piece, to say something about it. It's the same thing goes, I think, with the empathetic point of view. So I got an email this morning that said, I know we're going through a hard time, period. Would you be interested in our video platform? It was just, okay, what about it? I think, and Alex, I'm curious on your opinion on this, but I'm kind of having a distaste from my perspective of the people who are signing off to saying, sending good vibes and hoping your family as well, or something like that. It seems inauthentic to me, but maybe that's just my old bitter soul. What do you think?
If you don't, I'd only send that to somebody I know.
Exactly.
I only go to an existing client that I know very well, that I could have that sort of conversation. Somebody kind of net new, opening out, recognizing that you recognize the situation. How can I help? But then, kind regards that, or even just signing off Alex. I wouldn't do that in terms of, hey, because it just feels, to your point, it just feels like glib. It just feels like, hey, you don't know me from Adam, so what if I respond and say, no, actually my family is not well and they're on a respirator and they're, it's like, how do you then? So I think if you know them really, really well, but it comes back to what you were saying earlier, show me you know me. yeah, my view is if you don't know the person and it's net cold outreach, show you give a shit. Back to what your earlier point in terms of actually show that you've done your research and how to take a different point of point of view. Don't make it look like it's just a copy and paste job because you need to say I hope everybody's safe and well. Is my
Yeah,
view.
exactly. Exactly. I am good. I'm glad we're aligned. Thanks for the reassurance there.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thank you. You've been awesome as ever. Hashtag Sam Sales. I will put, well, I guess people can find you hashtag Sam Sales. I'm assuming they can find you on the usual social platforms as well.
I'm all over LinkedIn, as you can imagine, a little bit more there than Twitter. So come to the app, search for the hashtag, send me some opinions about what you thought of this podcast. It's not that just so you listen to it.
I'll put the links to Sam's company websites, to LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff on the post. But Sam, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Alex. Such a pleasure to hang out with you.
My pleasure. And to all my listeners, as ever, thanks for tuning in. And as ever, if you want to be on this podcast, let me know. If you think anybody should be on this podcast, let me know. But otherwise, notwithstanding what we've just said, but please do keep safe, keep well, and until next time.